I still remember the moment I booked my ticket. It felt like an act of tiny rebellion and a quiet promise to myself. For years I had put other people first: family, friends, appointments, the steady rhythm of home. Then one day I realized the calendar had slipped into a groove where the same things repeated, and I wanted a new page. I wanted the kind of day that begins with a different skyline, the kind of evening where the unfamiliar becomes the teacher. So I booked a flight, packed a small bag, and set off alone for the first time since I was young and carefree. This is the story of that first trip, the parts I learned the hard way, the surprises that made me laugh, and the reasons I believe every person over 65 should consider doing something similar. If you're listening, know this: I'm speaking from curiosity and care. This is not a sermon to push you into risk. It's an invitation to consider what's possible when you say yes to yourself. Preparation felt more important than ever. My mind immediately went to the practical things: my medications, my passport, my glasses, and how to tell my family where I'd be. I wrote a list and rewrote it until I felt calm. At my age, certain small missteps can become bigger problems. So planning is not about anxiety. It's about smoothing the path so you can enjoy the walk. First, I made a simple health packet. I wrote down each medication's name, dosage, and the time I take it. I included the generic names too, because pharmacy labels change and doctors sometimes call medicines by different names. I printed my most recent list of prescriptions and tucked it into a folder, along with my medical insurance card, my emergency contact numbers, and a summary of known allergies. I also added a copy of my doctor's name and phone number just in case. Tape it in the inside pocket of your bag, I told myself. Easy to find, but not dangling where it might get damp. I arranged a short check-in system with my niece. We agreed I would text her a quick message each morning if everything was all right, and send a photo at the end of each day. That tiny ritual gave my family reassurance and gave me an extra reason to notice small details: the color of the sky, the pattern on a cafe table, the way people smiled. You'll find that leaving a digital breadcrumb can be both practical and a kind way to stay connected without oversharing. Packing was an art and a lesson. I used to pack as if I were leaving for 2 weeks. This time I forced myself to be modest. A small carry-on bag, no heavy wheels, and a comfortable shoulder tote felt just right. I packed light layers: a soft cardigan, a lightweight rain jacket, a scarf that could do double duty as a pillow or a fashion accent. Shoes were the most important choice: sturdy, broken in, and easy to slip on and off. 2 pairs was enough: walking shoes and a nicer pair for evenings. I brought a small first aid kit with adhesive bandages, antiseptic wipes, and a pair of compression socks for long travel days. I tucked a portable charger into the tote and labeled the charger and my phone with my name and a contact number in case of loss. I also carried one good outfit that made me feel put together. You'll want that for evenings when you want to go out and feel that extra lift. I learned to think in pockets. Wallets and purses can be targets for nerves, so I used a slim travel organizer that fits under my clothes when necessary. I kept a photocopy of my passport in one place and the actual document nestled in a neck wallet close to my body. I split my cash up, some in my wallet, some in my bag. So if one thing went missing, it wouldn't be everything. A laminated card with my name, hotel address, and a phone number in the local language, or at least the address in the local writing if you go to a different country, gave me confidence when taxis or drivers needed a clear direction. Travel day came. I arrived early and gave myself extra time to sit, breathe, and watch people. There's a special quiet in airports and stations that feels full of potential. One of my first surprises was how often strangers smiled when I looked them in the eye and asked a simple question: "Where is the coffee? Which gate?" It turns out politeness crosses generations. On my flight, I practiced small rituals to keep calm: warm socks, a lightweight scarf, and a paperback book. When the cabin lights dimmed, I closed my eyes and pictured the place I would arrive at. That small act of imagination turned the long hours into smaller, intentional moments. I also made it a point to stretch during layovers and walk when possible. Models of movement matter, especially when you don't want to stiffen up. Arriving at my destination felt like stepping into a painting I had seen in a book. The air smelled different, and my body immediately took notice. One of the lessons of solo travel is how sensitive you become to rhythm. You notice the city's heartbeat, the rush of market voices, the lull of siestas, the way tram bells sing. Rather than try to see everything, I chose 3 small experiences per day: a walk, a visit to a museum or garden, and a meal at a local cafe. That simple rhythm kept me curious without being exhausted. Safety feels like a central concern for many people my age, and rightly so. But safety is not the opposite of adventure. It is the practice that enables it. I learned to study a neighborhood upon arrival, where the nearest pharmacy was, which street seemed well lit at night, and where the main train station lay. I avoided empty side streets after dark, as any seasoned traveler would, and I kept my valuables in the body-worn organizer when I was among crowds. I also learned to trust my instincts. If a place felt off, I would turn and walk away. The world is full of kind people and helpful shopkeepers. They are often the first to offer directions or suggest a better way. One of the joys of solo travel is being able to follow your curiosity without compromise. I wandered into a tiny bakery because the smell was irresistible, and I stayed to watch the bakers shape loaves. I visited a small park where a group of older men were playing chess. One of them invited me to join, and for 30 minutes we swapped stories across the board. Another time at a museum, I lingered in front of a painting for longer than the guided tour allowed. A young woman beside me struck up a conversation about color, and we found ourselves comparing the light in our respective childhoods. These unscripted encounters are not merely pleasant. They remind you that connection can happen in the most ordinary places. Eating alone for the first time felt oddly vulnerable. There's a rhythm in sharing a meal that makes it feel like more than food. In the beginning, I worried I might feel awkward sitting by myself, but I discovered the opposite. Eating alone grants the time to notice the texture of bread, the rhythm of a street, the conversation at the next table. I carried a small notebook and jotted down a phrase or two about the dish I ordered, a scent that lingered, or a moment that surprised me. That notebook became a small treasure. And I had a trick. When I wanted company at a table, I chose communal tables or small cafes where conversations naturally begin. People are curious about guests, and more often than not, conversation flowed easily. Loneliness is a worry that surfaces often when people think of solo travel. But there is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness feels heavy and undesired. Solitude can be a warm companion. I allowed myself to feel both and learned to be gentle with the process. I called an old friend on a quiet evening to say hello, and the conversation felt like an invisible bridge back home. I also joined a half-day walking group one morning. A small collection of other travelers, some younger and some older, shared stories and recommendations. That group introduced me to a small market alley I would not have found on my own. Balance matters. Reserve pockets of private time, but invite moments of company when they feel right. A practical question many people ask is how to manage money abroad or in new places. I found it wise to let my bank know I'd be traveling, so they wouldn't freeze my card for suspicious activity. I used a mix of cash and a credit card known for low foreign transaction fees. In many places, using local ATMs is easy and safe if you pick machines inside bank branches or well-lit, staffed areas. Keep a backup bank card separate from the main wallet in case one card stops working. Keep copies of important numbers, your bank's international contact line, your embassy if you're abroad, and a local contact number, in both paper and digital form. Transportation taught me patience and flexibility. Trains and buses follow schedules, but sometimes delays happen, and that's part of the travel rhythm. I learned to allow extra time for transfers and to sit and observe when I had to wait. Ferries and local buses introduced me to the poetry of local transit, watching a city from a river or seeing the countryside whisper by. For short distances I walked. Walking is the gentle way to collect the city's visual vocabulary. Signs, colors, the way people arrange chairs outside cafes. Bring a comfortable day pack and a good map app. Download offline maps when you can. They saved me the day my phone took a brief nap with no signal. Technology can be a friend or a frustration. I use my phone for maps, translation, and quick research, but I also recognize the need to disconnect for long stretches. The balance I found was to use technology deliberately, a planned chunk of time for directions or bookings, then a period of unconnected walking where I let serendipity guide me. A good translator app with offline mode proved golden when language barriers felt wide. It's okay to use single words and gestures. People appreciate effort. Accommodation choices matter. For my first solo trip after 65, I chose a small, well-reviewed guest house rather than a huge, anonymous hotel. The friendliness of the staff made a huge difference. One woman gave me a paper map and circled her favorite bakery. Another flagged a quiet street where I could enjoy a peaceful evening walk. Small places often have character and staff who remember you by name, an antidote to loneliness. If you prefer extra company, look for guest houses or small hotels that offer communal breakfasts or evening tea. If you prefer solitude, book a quiet room and let the outer door be your social record. One of the most meaningful lessons was discovering how much the world still values a face that has seen years. On my first evening, an older couple at a small bistro asked what brought me to the city. We ended up sharing a bottle of wine and stories of travel from decades past. They offered tips about the best local theater and the best shop for handmade scarves. In a museum, I met a retired schoolteacher who spoke about living through different eras and how travel had taught her to listen. These conversations reminded me that age gives perspective that younger travelers sometimes seek. Your presence alone can become a bridge for meaningful dialogue. Health management requires forethought. Before leaving, I filled prescriptions and carried a few extra days' worth in case of delays. I packed a list of local medical centers near my accommodations and noted any local health advisories. If you take medications that require refrigeration, check with your pharmacy about travel-friendly packing or ask a hotel to store them. Wear comfortable shoes and take regular rest breaks. The temptation to see everything can be strong, but moderation will keep you feeling happy rather than depleted. Cultural sensitivity deepened my appreciation. Take the time to learn a few local phrases. Please, thank you, and excuse me go a long way and are appreciated everywhere. Read a bit about local customs. Simple acts such as whether to tip or how to greet or which days markets are closed can save awkward moments. When in doubt, observe and follow the lead of locals. A small gesture like learning how to hold a teacup properly or respecting a quiet prayer time at a temple can open doors to genuine warmth. One of the sweetest surprises was how creative I became in using time. Waiting for a train became an opportunity to write a postcard, to read a few pages of a book, or to sketch a scene. I left the pressure for a perfect photograph behind and focused instead on moments that made me breathe a little deeper. I learned that travel is not a checklist but a series of small awakenings, a particular light on a street, a child's laugh, the silhouette of a steeple against dusk. Returning home after that first trip felt like arriving from a secret. I carried souvenirs that mattered, a small jar of spice, a scarf that smelled faintly of a market, the memory of conversations. More than objects, though, I carried a new confidence. I had solved small problems, navigated unfamiliar ways, and learned to listen to my own needs in a new setting. That confidence did not vanish when I unpacked. It stayed with me. I found myself more willing to say yes to invitations, to explore nearby towns for a single day, to take small risks I would previously have declined. If you are reading this and wondering whether a solo trip is for you, here are some practical tips distilled from my experience. Start small. If a long international trip feels too big, choose a nearby city or a quiet seaside town that feels comfortable. A short train ride can build confidence for a longer trip later. Plan, but leave room for surprise. Book your first night's accommodation and know how to get there from the station or airport. After that, let the day unfold with a few planned points and time for wandering. Pack light and smart. Bring comfortable shoes, a lightweight rain jacket, a day bag, and a small medical kit. A portable charger and printed emergency info are small but invaluable. Keep people informed. A simple check-in routine with a family member or friend eases worry on both sides. Share your itinerary, or at least your planned first destination. Be visible, not flashy. Drawless clothing, a modest bag, and a friendly demeanor will often get you better service and more safety in crowded places. Learn basic phrases. Locals appreciate the effort. Thank you, hello, and where is can be enough to open a conversation. Join small groups if you want company. Walking tours, cooking classes, or museum talks are safe ways to meet people without the pressure of being on for the whole trip. Trust your instincts about neighborhoods and people. If something feels off, step away. Most of the time, small caution brings large rewards. Allow time for rest. Solo travel can be active. Schedule afternoons to read, write, or simply sit in a park. News celebrate small wins. If you navigate a tricky train transfer, find a delightful cafe, or make a new friend, give yourself credit. Why should you go? Because travel in later life is different than travel in youth. It is quieter, deeper, and often more reflective. You notice details you once zipped past. You have the patience to linger and the wisdom to ask better questions. A solo trip after 65 can be a gentle act of self-respect, an assertion that your curiosity still matters, that your need for beauty and connection is alive, and that you deserve to make plans that delight you. There are emotional gains too. Solo travel taught me to sit with my own company and to enjoy it. The silences became less intimidating and more like pages in a book I could read slowly. I returned feeling lighter, ready to engage more fully with the people in my life. I also realized that new experiences make memory vibrant. The stories I brought home became conversation starters and treasures in family gatherings. Travel also teaches humility and empathy. Watching local life, hearing accents and learning new ways of ordering tea give you a sense of how diverse and rich the human story is. You realize that most people are generous, kind, and curious. You see that loneliness is not only a problem of the old, but also a worldwide condition that small moments of kindness can heal. You come home with an expanded sense of belonging that is not limited to one place. If you worry about costs, remember there are many options. Travel does not require luxury. Slow travel, taking a train instead of a plane, choosing modest accommodations, eating from markets, and using local buses can be both richer and kinder to a budget. Sometimes the most rewarding experiences, a local conversation, a walk through a neighborhood, a shared loaf of bread, cost next to nothing. If a family member is concerned about your traveling alone, involve them in the planning. Share your itinerary, choose safe accommodations, and demonstrate your thoughtful approach to health and safety. Let them help you choose emergency contacts and show them how you'll check in. Often their fears ease when they see the plan. For those who fear language barriers, remember that a smile is universal and that translation apps have changed the game. Carry a small phrasebook if it comforts you, and enjoy the little dance of communication that happens when words fail. Often gestures and shared curiosity create a deeper connection than language itself. There is a delicate courage in leaving home and returning changed. It's not the loud kind of bravery that makes headlines. It is quiet and steady. It asks you to trust yourself, to be kind to yourself when things go wrong, and to remember that surprise is a part of life well lived. When you come home, you carry stories and confidence that ripple out into your day-to-day life. My first solo trip after 65 was an invitation to rewrite an old chapter. It taught me practical lessons about packing and safety, but it also opened a softer, more surprising lesson that wandering can be a way of remembering who you are and who you still might become. I learned to ask for help and to accept offers of companionship. I learned that small choices, choosing a cafe, taking a bus, sitting on a bench, add up to a life that feels more curious and less routine. If you are considering a trip, may I offer a final encouragement? Begin with compassion for yourself. Honor your limits and your desires. Don't compare your travel to anyone else's. Your pace is your own, and that is the beauty of traveling alone. You can stop when you want, go where you please, and change your mind without negotiating. That freedom is a rare gift, and it becomes sweeter as years pass. So book that short trip to a nearby town, plan a weekend by the sea, or schedule a longer adventure if it calls you. Bring your list and your sense of humor. Let curiosity be your compass. Be practical, yes, but let delight be part of your map. And when you return, tell someone the story of the person you met on a bench, the dish that surprised you, or the view that took your breath away. Those stories are the real souvenirs. Small, bright things you carry in your heart. I hope my words encourage you to consider your own small journey. Whether it's across the country or across a bridge into your neighborhood, solo travel after 65 is not a radical act. It is a tender act of self-respect. It's a statement that your life is still full of chapters worth exploring, and that more than anything else is the best reason to go.